is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome back to another Shadowverse Evolved video. So we finally have some results for Set 5 BSF. I want to know what these decks look like, what the concoctions of what these people are creating for these new decks, and let's go ahead and get into it. Alrighty, so it looks like we have the BSF in Vietnam. It happened over this past weekend. I'm ready to talk about these decks that placed. And in first place, we have PG Shadow, and with C8, we have Hotan Fats Havencraft deck. I do want to give a slight apology if I mispronounce some of these names. I will try my best to pronounce them the best way I can. Alrighty, getting into the CA list, we have Fable Haven or Egg Haven, however you guys want to pronounce the deck. There's not really much to say because this deck is still providing results. With set 5, we have Demon's Epitaph being a new card, Fina being a card as well, just to help you get through your deck, and then also have some Bane for the Marwyn matchup, or any pesky followers that were or just have a hard time removing that have more than 5 defense. So we have lots of new cards from there from set 5. But like I said before, nothing too different, and getting into the Evo deck, there's nothing really special here besides the one of Priest of Kojal, which I didn't talk about in the main deck, but I think that's another good addition to just removing things. Since you're going to be wiping the board, your opponent's going to just be playing cards just to get them out, so they're going to try to aggress you down in some sort of way, and Priest of Kojal just, checks those cards that have last words effects and stuff so they don't get a draw from either Bellringer or Demon Punctimonium, stuff like that. So that's a very good addition. Alrighty, and next up we have the Seat B Seat with Hung Tron's Abysscraft Silence deck, I believe. So if you don't already know what Silence is, it is definitely the more hand-controlly version of Abysscraft. I'm glad that this version of Abysscraft is now out, and looking at this deck already, I can see there's a lot of things going on with it. So even though there are no mill elements in the deck, you can get Necrocharge 10 pretty quickly, I would say myself, because every turn you're going to be making some sort of play. You're either going to be playing Bellringer to check a follower, you're either going to be playing Angelic Snipe to also check a follower, you can use Soul Conversion on Bellringer to get some really good draws in your hand, you can do Demon Punctimonium to heal 2, Surefire Bullet for the mid game to check those evolved followers, you have Thundering Roar to check a random card out of your opponent's hand, along with Crazed Executioner and Rulanai to also tax their turn to stop spells from happening. And then we have Apostle of Silence to be evolved to destroy a follower or to either ping it for 3, Soul Dealer to heal as well, Dark Alice, just lots of hand control elements that are happening with this deck. Alrighty, and peeking over into this evolved deck, we're looking at 1 Bellringer, 2 Crazed Executioner, 1 Murzensky, 2 Rulanais, 2 Apostle of Silences, 1 Soul Dealer, and then 1 Azazel. And then looking at the fact that we are running only 1 Azazel in this deck does bring up to the fact that now that we're moving into more of a grindier match. Well, it's not like we're in an aggro format anymore. It seems like we're more of a mid-range. A lot of decks just have a lot of mid-range things. We're not dying on like turn 4 or turn 5 unless you're going up against Thief Sword. But I believe this deck has a very good matchup against Thief Sword because you're going to be picking their hand apart while they're trying to put cards onto the field, and then you're going to be getting rid of their followers the best way you can. But all around, a pretty nice Silence Abysscraft deck list. Let's go ahead and figure out what deck got in Seat C. Alrighty, and we have Seat C, we have Nguyen Tran Swordcraft deck. So taking a quick glance at it, I'm finally glad to stop seeing Hero Sword, but in reality, this is just a Thief Sword build along with Hero Sword things. And I think both the engines are pretty spicy because you're going to be checking top 3 and you can hit any Swordcraft follower that costs 3 or less, so you can hit either the new Octress, you can hit the 3-cost follower that Storm that makes you mill, you can hit Novice Trooper or Floor Fencer. You're just a lot of good targets that you can hit in this deck. But the one spicy thing I want to talk about is the Merger Bane. So the one thing about Swordcraft is when you play a card, you're not really plussing in hand size. So Merger Bane is a very good late game card just to have, just because you're not going to really have that many cards in hand, and you can evolve and do damage to the board. You can swing a sail, just have a big body on the board that restands itself. Your opponent has to answer it unless they want to take some huge damage to the face next turn. Alright, but peeking into the Evo deck, so we have 2 Octress, 2 Fencer, 2 Mock Knights, 1 Albert, 2 Apostle of Usurpation, and then we have 1 Merger Bane. So congratulations PG Shadow for taking the dub, first place in Vietnam, and let's go ahead and see what team got second place. Alrighty, next up we have the second place team, SG Shadowverse Alpha, and we're going to be looking at Nguyen Than Doi's Dragoncraft Seat A Disdain deck. So the one thing we probably know that's very common for Dragoncraft is that we don't have a very big hand size. So we have to use some weird card combos to really, replenish our hand and do some really good plays to just get our hand size up and match with our opponent. But with us not having a big hand, we do have some very big plays. So looking at some quick tech for the deck, we have the Erd to stop some Fable Haven plays, we have the Lyrial to stop some burn damage, along with the Path of Purgatory to also stop the damage so we can also just draw some cards for free, and then we have the regular Disdain package along with a Dragon Tamer to probably thin in your deck some. And another card that I spotted was the Dragoneer. So most people are running the Shapeshifter Mage because they just need that Bane to remove those big followers, but I can see with Dragoneer, you can use that as a combo. You get the Dragonic Weapon to give that to a follower so you can ping them an extra time. You can probably give that to Galmu, so she's not a 3 cost, she becomes a 4 cost, but that still is in range for Surefire Bullet, so you really do have to watch out for that when you play Disdain Dragon. But peeking over into the Evolve deck, we have 1 Dragon Tamer, the 2 Apostle of Disdain, the 1 Dragoneer, 2 Fortes, 1 Erd, and 3 Galmu. So congratulations for getting second place with your Seat A Dragon Disdain deck. Let's go ahead and see what deck got in Seat B. Alrighty, and we have our Seat B list. We have Doi, Thon's, Havencraft, I think Heavenly Repost deck? Alright, so the one thing about Heavenly Repost is that you're kind of really focusing on Marwim to, draw a card, heal, and then, skip your opponent's turn to also get some play points on your opponent's turn to react to some of the plays that they have. But I believe this deck is very different from the Marwin build that we think we should be running. But we all know as common knowledge, Havencraft is probably one of the best decks in terms of removal just because Themis Decree is a card and it does not care what cards are on the field, they're just getting off the board. But taking a closer look at this deck, we are running Gillenise, so if you don't already know what Gillenise does, you can play her for 4, but you can add 3 more to her cost, and you can search your deck for Apostle of Craving and Craving Splendor. So what Apostle of Craving does is, if there's a Gillenise on field in your EX area, this card becomes free, and then you can give a follower on your field Rush. And then along with the Craving Splendor, so it's a quick spell, and as long as Gillenise is on your field, this card is also free, and you can deal 4 damage to a follower and give your leader +1 defense. All in all, together with Gillenise having Drain, you're going to be healing 3 and then also healing an extra 1 more with the free spell that you're going to be using. And then we have the Apostle of Craving Evil that also gives us the plus on the stats of attack. So in total, you're going to probably be healing for 7 altogether if you can do it all in the same turn, which you should be able to do because, you're removing the field, you're going to be dealing damage, and then if you're able to keep Gillenise on the field, you can also use probably Jeanne d'Arc's Evolve effect to probably give her some defense back if she manages to stick on the field. But if anybody knows competitive Shadowverse, if there's a follower on the field, there's 9 times out of 10 chance that it's going to get removed or your opponent's going to think of a way to get rid of it. If it is threatening, that is. But it seems like the deck is not focusing on Marwim since there only is 1 of him in the deck, but there is a way to just go ahead and search for him with the new spell card that came out, the Saviors, which you can either use it as an Angelic Snipe to just banish a follower off the field with 2 or less defense, or you can search for the Marwin Omen of Repost for your deck. So it seems like this is more in towards a Heavenly Aegis endgame where you have the Guardian Sun to ward up and then swing for 10 the very next turn. But let's go ahead and peek at this Evo deck. So we have the 1 of Bellringer, the 1 of Apostle of Craving, the 2 of Apostle of Repost, 2 Jeanne d'Arc's, 1 Marwin, 1 Erd, and then 2 Heavenly Aegis. So congratulations with a very interesting list of Heavenly Reposts, or should I say Heavenly Aegis list. Let's go ahead and figure out what list got in Seat C. Alrighty, next up we have Don Tron's Necrocharge Abysscraft deck in Seat C. So a very interesting list already, because at the start of it, we only see 1 of Bellringer. So you probably don't want that many Bellringers in your deck because you want to use the departed followers in your cemetery to get back with Ektar. But if you already know how Necrocharge Abyss runs, you're going to be hypermilling your deck to just go ahead and get 10 cards into your cemetery very quickly, and then you're going to get some bonus effects from other followers from either having 10 or even 20 cards in your cemetery. And then we're going to follow up with Ektar to play our 2 or less followers from our cemetery, and then they're going to be having effects either when they die or when they're played. And those cards in this deck are Demon Punctimonium, the Mischievous Zombie, the also Lesser Mummy, and then we have the Hell's Unleasher just in case you need to get it out and put a follower back into your hand. But what's really spicy about this list is the one Odette Black Swan. People don't really run this card in the deck because it's a little slow, but now that the meta's kind of slowing down and Hero Sword isn't as prevalent as it is, we have a way to probably get to Necrocharge 20. She has Storm, you're going to be dealing 8 to face and then dealing a whole bunch of damage to the board. But all around, a pretty solid deck list. Let's go ahead and see what this evolved deck looks like. We have the 1 of Bellringer, the 3 of Less of Mummy, the 1 Mischievous Zombie, 2 of Merzinski, 1 Azazel, and then we have 2 Carrots. So congratulations guys for getting second place as a team. Let's go ahead and figure out what the third place team looks like. Alright, and we have our third place team, 3 Boys in Wonderland, and we have Kikisha's Havencraft deck in seat A. So the main difference in the build is it's probably more a little aggressive because we have 3 goblins in the deck and there is no Odette White Swan. But there's nothing really different in the deck besides the Odette White Swan not being in the deck, so you could say it's a very excellent deck. Yeah, I'm sorry guys, but let's go ahead and figure out what deck got in seat B. Alright, and we're moving on to seat B with Kakeshi's Abysscraft deck. So looking at it already, there are a lot of neutral cards in here, so I took a little review of the deck, and it seems to be this is a Gillenese package deck. So if I didn't already go over in Gillenese, so when you play her, you do get to spend 3 for the other cards, and then if you have 10 play points, you get to draw 3 cards, but there was another ability of whenever you play a neutral card, deal 1 damage to each enemy leader. And by looking at the deck, there are some elements to help us survive through the mid game, but once Gillenese is on the field and if she stabilizes, there's going to be a lot of things we're going to be doing. So one thing I want to bring to attention is the 1-of Call of Cactus to search for any neutral follower that we need and destroying a follower in the process. But tons and tons of neutrals we're going to be using. We have the 1-of Wing Inversion to discard an angel follower to select a follower on the field and destroy it, or discarding a fallen angel follower and then gaining 3 health and then drawing a card. Another 1-cost spell that we're going to be using as a Angelic Snipe, but also if Gillenese is on the field, we can banish a follower instead. But I believe the most useful follower in this deck is the Rosa Maiden, because you do play her for 2, but when you evolve her, you draw a card. But it looks like this is a super neutral control-y deck. I believe that Abysscraft is probably the best deck that you can use it for. You can use Israfil, you can use Alucard, you can use Gillenese package pretty well because you can get Followers out of the Cemetery with Death's Breath. But let's go ahead and look at this evolved deck real quick. But it looks like this is a super neutral control-y deck. I believe that Abysscraft is probably the best deck that you can use it for. You can use Israfil, you can use Alucard, you can use Gillenese package pretty well because you can get Followers out of the Cemetery with Death's Breath. But let's go ahead and look at this evolved deck real quick. And getting into the evolved deck real quick, we have the 1-of Bellringer, the 2 of Rosa Maidens, the 3 of Apostle of Craving Evos, 1 Cerberus, 1 Erd, 2 Israfils, and that's it. But congratulations for getting 3rd place with your seat B list of Abysscraft neutral. Let's go ahead and see what deck got in seat C. Alrighty, and we have our last but not least, we have Stardust Phasm's Swordcraft deck. So looking at this deck list, this looks like a Thief Sword build with some very nice mid-range to late game options. So of course we're going to have the Thief package, but we're also going to be looking at the 2 of Aurelia Saber that they have, and then the 2 of Leonidas with the 1 big Narita Brian for the late game options. So personally for me, if you're going to want to beat Swordcraft, you're going to enter the cards on field that are going to be swinging, and then when you get into late game options, you're going to notice they're not going to have that many cards in hand. But when we play cards like Leonidas to buff our cards on our field whenever they are played, they have those huge stat lines, they're going to be very hard to remove, and then Aurelia probably checks you when you do the Leonidas in the late game. But going ahead and looking at this evolved deck, we have the 1-of Bellringer, the 3 of Octress, the 2 of Floral Fencer, 2 Apostle of Usurpation, and then we have the 2 of Leonidas Evo. But congratulations to everybody that topped at Vietnam. I'm glad everybody was able to come out there and have a good time during BSF. We didn't really have that many deck lists, running around in a very competitive format for BSF. When set 5 came around, there weren't that many listings. So I'm glad to finally have some results to give you guys. But alrighty guys, that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. You don't know how much it means to me that you guys are here and watching my stuff. Make sure you guys are safe in whatever you do tonight, and make sure you're safe in whatever you do for the rest of the year. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Yeah. TRINN. Just to get you away. What I got to do. What I got to do. Just do what I got to do just to get you away. You pull me too close, now we hesitate. Every single